Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Collective Clicks podcast. Today, I have Jesse and Kevin joining us from the Pebble team. We're going to talk all about their journey, their story, what brought them to the point where they have this land invest in CRM, and some of the things they're passionate about in business. So, Jesse, Kevin, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks.
Thanks, Brian. It's great.
Yeah, I'm excited to have both of you here so we can hear both sides of this. So for anybody who doesn't know who you are, doesn't know your company, could you give like the introduction, like where you come from, who you are, what the company does?
Yeah, Kevin and I are both co-founders here at Pebble. We both started in the land space several years ago. Kevin and I ran into each other in an online space. Kevin was living out in Seoul, South Korea. I was living out here in Vancouver, Canada. We were both virtually flipping land. And on my end, I started building a real estate website agency called REI Conversion. Kevin was working on really the early versions of what Pebble was because he was using it for his own land business. So we were doing that, and Kevin ended up sharing some of the things that he was doing with it, with the community. And quickly I reached out to Kevin and say, hey, do you want to work on this with me and bring it to market? It was a kind of on the whim kind of thing that happened. It was COVID just started hitting, right, Kevin?
It was May 2020, COVID. We were like a couple months into COVID. And
Yeah.
We're like, why don't we try to build a business right now?
We had nothing to do. We were both living in some of the strictest countries. I couldn't even leave my area. He was in Korea. Anyways, we decided to do that. And a few months later, we decided to launch it to the audience we had so far. And the rest is history. We continue to build what Pebble is until today.
Yeah. All right. I have a question that you need to answer extremely honestly. If you knew then what you know now about what it would take to build this product and get it off the ground, would you have still done it?
For sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
100%. Yeah.
Good for you.
I think that we got lucky in that Jesse and I, beyond just business partners, like we're very good friends, and we jumped off the cliff together, and it could have turned out very differently if the relationship didn't work out. But luckily, we both see eye to eye on how the business runs. And I think that's what made it so successful. Another
online dating success story. Crazy how karma was.
We both decide to swipe right at the same time.
No. Wild. It's changed. I'm curious to hear from like the very like first point that Pebble started. So it sounds like, Kevin, you were investing in land and you were building, I'm guessing, the CRM for your own purpose. And yes, you saw what you were doing and you thought, well, that's pretty cool. I want to help with this. But tell me about like some of those initial things that you were doing. Obviously, you were building this yourself for a reason. There was something missing in the other products that were in the space. So what were these things that you were doing that were like meaningful enough for you to spend the time on it and meaningful enough that Jesse saw it and said, this is worth doing?
Yeah, so that's exactly it. So I was living in Korea. I was doing software development freelance full-time during the day, and then I was flipping land in nights and weekends. And my land business was scaling up pretty quickly to the point where like I was getting phone calls and voicemails that I was having to follow up on. I was having to manage mailing campaigns, having to track those leads as they came in and sync those up with the information I had so that I could do due diligence and all this other stuff. And it was quickly getting overwhelming. And so that started this journey of trying basically every CRM out there, from HubSpot to Hype to the real estate focused CRMs. And what I quickly realized is that the land space, and this is somewhat true for the wholesaling real estate space in general, is we are somewhat unique in that we really have two brands happening at the same time, right? I have my buy side and I have my sell side, and there is overlap there in that I want to have the same database of properties that I've marketed to and that I'm going after, but I want to treat those two conversations of purchasing a property versus selling a property as two separate things. But I want everything to talk together and have it be streamlined through that whole process. And most CRMs just they're not set up to handle two businesses at once. And that's where I realized that if I'm really going to build what I need here, or if I'm going to find what I need here, I need to build it. So that started this slow process of just building sort of piece by piece that I would get to a point where I would try to do something that would take me like a full day to do, whether it was a scrubbing a list or sending out a campaign or managing due diligence. And I would be like, okay, how can I automate this in software? And I'd spend a few days automating that piece of it. I'd get that done and I'd move on to the next thing that took a bunch of my time and try to automate that. I just build this thing piecemeal over 3 or 4 months. And then, and that's when I shared it with this group that I was in, because somebody basically posted in that group the exact same scenario that I was in 4 months earlier. They were like, hey, I'm trying to manage these two sides of my business. The CRMs I've tried don't work. What are you guys using? And that's when I shared just this quick video of what I had built, not really expecting anything to come from it. And then that ended up generating huge buzz on that forum that Jesse reached out to me asking, bring this thing to.
Yeah, that's cool. Good for you guys. That's fun. So today, what do you see people tend to appreciate the most about what you guys have built?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we've naturally gravitated towards, I think since the get-go, is really engaging the community. And when I say community, I don't mean like we have our own private community, but we do hang out with a lot of people in different groups, in different, I don't know, quote unquote camps. And it just seemed natural for us to just have conversations. It's not something we set out to do, but it's certainly something that we enjoy doing and we continue to get a lot of value. And then the other way around, we end up providing a lot of value that way. Yeah, I think one of the things that we do really enjoy is just engaging with the community, observing the community, and just having conversations, whether it's about their business or what are they trying, what's marketing looking, some of the rumors going on. And yeah, I think that's been key for us, is to really just have those conversations and relationships with people. Even though we've been remote most of this time, we've been to a few events for land, which has been great too. And we've got a chance to talk at a couple events as well. But yeah, whether in person or virtually or over dinner locally, we're always down to just have conversations and understand whether, again, even if they're our customers or not. I've had many meals with people who are not our customers, are just in the land space, and we've just got a great relationship with the space. So that's been really key for us. I don't even know what you asked, Brandon, but I think that's my answer.
That's fair. I'm actually, as an extension of that, I'm curious to ask Jesse. So you're talking to land investors all the time. It's a unique position that you're put in. I understand it a little bit because being a service provider working with investors of all types, like land and residential, like just you're exposed to more investors than the average person is, right? You're in the middle of it all. In your opinion, what has changed in the past few years in the land investing space based on what you've seen?
So much.
We've seen back when Jesse and I started, land was a totally unknown space, and it has definitely gotten a lot more attention over the past 5 years. It's hard to have profit margins like that and not expect people to get into the business. So we've seen a lot more people coming into the space, but we've also seen changes in the way that marketing channels happen. Back when I started, like it was, one-page letters were like the only thing that happened, and now we've got a lot more diversity in terms of whether it's calling or texting or doing ad campaigns like you could provide. There's tons of different channels that this process starts out. That's been a big change over the past.
Yeah, and I think like in terms of like property and real estate itself, I see people are moving up value a lot more. I used to send, this was my first, I still keep this on my desk. This is my very first postcard here. I sent 500 of these out in Bend, Oregon. Did 3 deals done, my very first mailing campaign, 500 of these. And it's just, they're 1 acre lots. And I didn't know who the heck would ever want to buy something like that. In Canada, it's, what are you? Okay, sure, we'll try it. But yeah, now people are looking for larger tracts of land. They're exploring how to force appreciation. And frankly, I feel like people are just now able to get more creative. And it's become more I don't know, to me, it looks just a lot more fun to do. You're actually adding value to a subdivision, or you're working with developers now. There's more of a bigger picture versus when we first started, it was just like, okay, I'll just buy a bunch of these lots out in these deserts and flip them. And that was really it. Now it's, we're talking about branding. We're talking about kind of developers to work with and the kind of lots you want. And, so there's a lot more I would say more interesting things happen. On the marketing side, yeah, things have changed and it continues to evolve. And over the years, one thing I've noticed, I've been using this line, like, everything works and everything doesn't work. Pick your method and stick with it. And you can tell me something that doesn't work, and I'll know somebody else who says it works phenomenally, and vice versa. And I think there's just so much, now that there's so much content out there, so much voices out there and people, and there just seems to be a lot of pulling of attention and distraction. And I think that has changed a lot. There's just so much out there, you don't even know what to follow. I'll tell you, because I have those face-to-face conversations, take whatever you're learning or take whatever you heard that is interesting, you connect with, you resonate with, and you stick with it. It will work. It can work. And again, I've heard people poo on certain things and people like cheer on that certain specific thing, like the very next day. That I've seen a lot of, because Kevin said, it's like when we first started, yeah, we'll just get out these one-page letters or these postcards and that's all we need to worry about. Now it's just, there's a lot more different channels and a lot more things you can explore with. I don't know. For me, it's just gotten a lot more interesting for sure.
Very cool. Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm curious to hear from your personal experience now. This goes both for you, Jesse, and for Kevin. As an entrepreneur, if you were to look at, there's a few different ways I could phrase this question. One of them would be like, what is it that you believe and understand now that you didn't believe and understand a year ago, for example, that had you understood that would have allowed you to progress a lot faster?
Yeah, I can speak to myself. When we started this business, it was just me and Jesse. We did everything. We had some help on a few things. We were answering support tickets. I was coding every line of the app, and we realized that was just not going to sustain us forever, especially with the growth that we were experiencing. We both had to really learn how to become managers, to extract ourselves from these low-level things in the business. And I know for me in particular, like that was a challenge, especially on the technical side, because I felt like I knew best, and there's like that pull to be coding everything and be like monitoring every line of code that gets written. And that is just not sustainable. And so it took a lot of searching and finding the right people and just letting go of things to let people take over. And when you find the right people, like they'll do things better than you can. It's pretty cool to see that happen. That's the big thing I've learned, is just how to let go, trust it, stuff.
Yeah, I would probably echo Kevin on that. I wouldn't, like, in the last 12 months, I don't know if that's long enough of a timeline for me. I think I've been learning this lesson for many years now. And coming into this, I had no idea how a product company works and how to run a SaaS company. That was certainly really new to me. That was challenging. I came from a content creation background, a marketing background, and into real estate, and then thrown into this. And so that was interesting. But I think, yeah, what Kevin said is huge. Also knowing having an idea of where you want to be, what ultimately what makes you happy to come to work every day. And that's where you want to strive for. To be honest, there are still some things I really enjoy doing that I don't think I'm ever going to let go of. And I don't want to let go of it. And I just want to do that kind of shit all day. I like sitting in front of a camera. It is so funny. In person, I'm not the most sociable, but on camera, I like this. And I like to spend time there. I actually like design a lot. I want to work on something. I do pull myself back, but like Kevin said, there are going to be people that are going to do it a lot better. Ultimately, though, Kevin and I are here as the leader of the business. So having a vision and having a direction to show the team the direction where we're supposed to go is really where we should be spending most of our time, and we try to spend most of our time there. That can come with its own challenges as well, because when you first start out, you didn't really come in with that kind of mindset. You were just hustling and you were just making stuff and doing stuff. And then you start realizing as your team grows, you have to show the team where we have to get to. The team is going to work with you to get to there. But if they don't have an idea of where we're going, we're not going anywhere. That is definitely, that's been a many year work in progress. Yeah. Yeah.
Very cool. What mistakes have you made in that process?
Oh man.
Thanks, I haven't. Yeah, go ahead, sis.
Yeah, no, we've made tons of mistakes internally. Like, how do we handle people? I didn't know we'd come into this role of managing people, feelings, and your own values too. And it all gets so gray, and that's always a challenge. And mistakes we've made early on of how we let go of people too, and how, so that's been a big learning lesson for both Kevin and I. We've made mistakes with our product. This is probably more specific to us, getting a lot of feedback and thinking that we should go in a certain direction. And once we go in that direction, it's, oh, wait, nobody really actually cared for that. That's been an interesting one. Kevin, since the beginning, thinking just because somebody says so doesn't mean that's what they actually want.
Yeah, that's a big one. Sometimes
Yeah.
a lot of noise from a very small group of people being very adamant that they want a very specific thing. And then you build that thing and realize that they were the only 3 people that ever use it. So it takes a lot of discipline to step back and say, what is really going to benefit the majority use case? Because that we need to be supporting is everyone. And it can be challenging because people get very vocal, and you have to be strong enough to say, no, we're not going to do that right now. There's only so much bandwidth to be able to add things, and then we just have to be laser focused on what.
We've made mistakes, and with our followers, our community, certain things we've made mistakes on, but we've never shied away from it. And so we've engaged on the community about making that mistake. We've had conflicts with other people as well, and we've been open about having those discussions. We've made tons of mistakes. And so one of the things that we do when we talk about being engaging is we try to be as transparent as possible. Kevin and I, every single month, we go on live to just share what we're working on, what's coming up ahead. And sometimes we make mistakes on that too. So yeah, there's so many mistakes, and this is, whatever business you're in, you're just going to have to accept it. Like, it's all part of the game at the end of the day. And yeah, so tons of mistakes on our end.
Yeah, sure. All right. Thank you guys for the feedback that you've given so far. I appreciate everything you've shared. If you had to leave the people listening to this with one last piece of advice, what would it be?
I think this applies to every business. If it's a real estate business or a software business like we're doing, or anything else. You really need to set the values of your team and get everyone aligned on pointing towards a goal. We spend a lot of time putting together goals for every quarter. We sit down as a team and we talk about them. We refine what we're going to work on, and we're always trying to set that goal of where we're trying to get to, and painting that picture of what getting to that place looks like. And we're not perfect at it, but by any means, but I think that's really important to just have that goal set and being able to communicate that and reiterating that's what we're trying. That's super.
I think this is like super important one, but it's just one I've been thinking about recently is really, I don't see it too often. I mentioned it earlier, but branding has become, I think, a more and more important thing, whether you're a real estate investor or running whatever business. Start thinking about your personal brand and who you are. I think that can be very powerful. And I tend to see a lot of people in the real estate space miss that. So think about who you are. What can you lean towards? Whether it's your personality, your hobbies, your values, or whatever, lean into that. It can be to your advantage. Really having a clear understanding of the kind of people that you want to work with. I think these things get glazed over in real estate because it can be very, I don't want to say mechanical, and we can disregard that, but I've seen a lot of people who've really honed in on branding and personal branding and really taken advantage of that. And it's helped them really stand out in an ever-growing competitive space. Yeah, just something I've been thinking about recently, at least.
Very cool. Thank you guys so much for spending some of your time with me today. And for everybody else listening, I will see you next week.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Brandon.
Thanks, Brandon.